Yes. I'm behind the scenes. I said everything.
Call the August 18th Board of Supervisors meeting order. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The board met in executive session to discuss matters of litigation. Can I have the approval of the minutes?
Make a motion that we approve the minutes for Monday, July 21st, 2025, Board of Supervisors.
Second.
All in favor? Abstain. Announcements.
Thank you. The 12th annual Lewy Body Dementia Walk for Awareness will be held on Sunday, September 28th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Warwick Community Park, which is parked here. To register, please visit warwickrec.com. Mike, do you have an announcement?
Yes, it's an announcement by way of reminder regarding the public comment portion of the meetings. The purpose of public comment is to give members of the public an opportunity to comment on a concern they have about the goings-on in our community. It is not an opportunity to engage in a back and forth with the supervisors. Supervisors are here to listen to your concerns and take them under advisement. Public comment is not meant for the supervisors to answer questions posed by members of the public. Please remember that when you have your time to speak if you've signed up. Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to citizens' comment. We'll start with TJ, please.
So
So first and foremost, may I approach with some paperwork for you all? Got a copy for you, should be. So first and foremost, attached to those are the emails that were sent to Kyle, secondary, more than 2 from the last meeting he said he got. So, good evening supervisors, TJ Cozen, as you know, Sandtrap Road. Tonight I'm here not because I enjoy wasting my evenings repeating myself, but because you've once again made it necessary. Let's begin with something positive. I'd like to thank Supervisor Tabor and give her a gold star. Yep, right here in my hand, a big shiny gold star. If I had one, I'd love to give it to you. For finally upholding the First Amendment and unblocking the Warwick Township Libertarian Club and my wife's campaign page on Facebook. Bravo. I mean, it only took public outcry and media exposure and threat of litigation, but you got there in the end. Of course, you didn't unblock those pages because it was the right thing to do. No, you did it because your attorney told you if you didn't, you were opening yourself up to a lawsuit you were guaranteed to lose. That's not courage, that's self-preservation. But still, you followed the law, so it's more than I can say about your handling about basic road safety. So let's call that progress. Now let's move on to something that's become a tradition in this room. Me coming here to beg you to protect our neighborhood from reckless drivers. Once again, I'm asking this board to take action on Sandtrap Road and Fairway Drive. Either install the speed humps or lower the speed limit to 15 miles per hour. What's it going to take for me to install them myself and you fine me $20K like you did to Mr. Grassa on Stony Road and fix the noise disturbances to his home himself? While you're at it, let's talk about the blind curves where cars park on both sides on Sandtrap Road. Like it's a staging area for a demolition derby. Put up no parking signs before someone ends up in the ER or worse than more. As you can tell in the last 3 pages, that's an intent to file litigation. So your attorney has it. You've been served. Let's make one thing clear. This isn't a new problem. This isn't something that popped up in the last few months because people got cranky on Facebook. One longtime resident, someone who's lived in this neighborhood longer than any of all of you have held office, told me, quote, they moved into this neighborhood 21 years ago. Neighbors back then were pleading with the township to help with traffic control on Fairway Drive. This issue has literally been going on to no avail for the last 30 years. I'm so tired of being ignored by elected people who don't give a darn about their constituents and our concerns. It's a joke. 30 years of people in this community coming to this board and getting ignored. That's not incompetence, that's indifference. But we don't have a transparency issue with the community, right? At least that's what Mr. Secretary said from the recent survey. Just this week, another resident shared with me that while walking with their family near the intersection of Sandtrap and Fairway, a truck came flying around the curve. He cut the turn so fast and nearly plowed into them. The only thing that saved that family was the driver noticed them at the last second, because apparently a reckless moron wasn't enough. Being a reckless moron wasn't enough. He sped off even faster. He was holding his cell phone. Let that sink in. That's a direct quote. This is the kind of dangerous behavior we deal with every single day. Another neighbor told me about a time a few years ago where they were walking up Fairway with 2 small children. And the youngest wasn't even born yet. Cute kid there. A car came barreling towards them so fast that the mom was preparing to push the stroller onto the grass and throw her toddler out of the way. That's a residential neighborhood. That's not hyperbole, that's terror. And that family didn't go for another walk for weeks. Why? Because you built a neighborhood where going for a walk can feel like a game of Frogger. But while we're talking about kids, let's talk about the school bus stop. Almost every school day during the school year, since it's approaching, at least one car speeds up the road while children are either getting on or off the bus. Do you know what it feels like as a parent to watch that happen and feel powerless? Feel slow down for 25 people at passing cars and hope they care enough to listen? My wife shared videos of cars blowing our stop sign nonstop. We paid all this money to change the paint scheme on our police cars to make them more low profile. And you're telling me that state police for a police truck can't park in front of my house and watch the stop sign? I don't blame our cops, because at the end of the day, Supervisor Riato at the last meeting said, quote, "We can't stop human nature." So if that's the case, Supervisor Riato, I'm telling any of our officers, including our chief here today, that if I get pulled over by Warwick PD, my excuse is, it was my human nature, I don't deserve a ticket, let's see how well that holds up in court. I don't think it will, but let's try it. I'm also gonna tell Stacy Workman that too. Supervisor Riato said it was okay, it's my human nature. We are sick and tired of being ignored. We are sick and tired of coming to this board, sharing these stories, and watching nothing happen while you hide behind procedural delays and bureaucratic red tape. Speaking of delays, let's talk about the speed studies. The township needed an extra 30 days to produce them. Why? What are you waiting for? A meteorological alignment? Don't insult her intelligence. I don't believe for a second that this delay was on Scott. Sky's always responded quickly. She does her job great. I think it was well under the pressure of our township manager, who's proven he can lie directly to this board and these residents. I believe Kyle, you forced her to take the 30 extra days so it wouldn't be after this meeting. This is not some complex engineering challenge. This is not a budget crisis. This is a common sense. This is basic public safety, and we've had decades, literally decades to act. Here's an idea. Maybe what we need to do is start video recording every time someone speeds past our kids and almost hits them, past our families, past our homes. And then maybe you guys actually produce your emails publicly and we send them to you every time. Over and over again until you can't ignore us anymore. But first, Kyle would have to make sure our emails are working and you're receiving all our emails from our residents. Would it take a tragedy to make you act? Is that what you're waiting for? Because if it is, just be honest and say so. Say you're waiting for one of our kids to die or us. You all claim to be public servants and serve. Serve the people who live here, the people who pay taxes here, the people who trust you with their safety. Or is this just a job to promote your local family business? I shouldn't have to come up here month after month repeating myself. My neighbors shouldn't have to beg you to care. And yet here we are. Enough is enough. Stop the excuses and do your jobs. You have a copy of the signed petition now, since no one has decided to go and change.org and look at it. 91 signatures, about 21 of them are Jamison residents that live on sovereign estates. You have my notice of intent to sue in the last 30 days if you don't do remediation. The lawyer can go over that with you. Have a good day.
All right, Mr. Cozen, thank you for your comments. This subject will be sent to our attorney from now on. If you have any comments, it can be on other items, but not on this, and you intended us to take us into legal action.
You cannot stop my public speech on the Sunshine Law.
We'll have to, we don't comment on matters of litigation during.
You don't have to comment.
So,
You don't have to comment.
Thank you.
I'm allowed to speak whenever I want on the Sunshine Law. Is that right, Mr.
we
Attorney?
have, Ed, you might,
Do you support restricting Sunshine Law real quick? I'm just saying.
I'd like a response to that. I'd like a response.
Do you support restricting my speech?
I would like a response to his question,
Which question is that?
the very last question where he asked of the attorney.
Do you support the restriction of my
It's
First
been our policy
Amendment right?
not to comment on matters that are under litigation. I just want to explain that to Mr. Cozen because he's got a letter of intent to sue the township, to sue all you taxpayers.
Not for money though, let's be honest, not for money though,
So,
for remediation.
okay. The subject is closed.
You don't need to be confrontational, sir.
I'm here with, dealing with the concern of the property on 1425 Old York Road. I have some information that's not told. I'm not gonna go over all this, it's just to see what we're dealing with. So good evening. My name is Edwin Nielsen. I live at 1419 Old York Road. For the past year, my neighbor and I have been dealing with an ongoing problem at 1425 Old York Road. As many as 9 people live in this building at different times. The basement is built out for living spaces, even a camper on the property that's hooked up to the home sewer and electrical system. In addition to 2 businesses, a tree company and a landscaping company are operating out of the property, bringing heavy vehicles and equipment on a daily basis. I personally spoke with the owner, and even after inspectors told him to stop, he continues to build without permits, putting up shanties, structures to store salt, poured 2 concrete foundations without any permits, dumping of stones and wood chips to turn his property into a large parking lot. We also have numerous photos documenting people urinating on the fences, along with construction building built on and over the property lines. It is worth remembering that the previous owner was unable to comply with zoning laws in attempts to make the building both commercial and residential. Yet the current problem we have only grows worse. I've prepared a timeline in advance along with a few photos to show that what's been happening. We asked for clarification on the zoning laws for this property so we can better understand what is and isn't permitted moving forward. So the neighbor has a tree company that decided to move everything in. You'll see some of the pictures in that there, what's going on. Even when the inspector came out during the week telling him that he has violations, he just took the free will to bring in a triaxle dump truck and dump more gravel. Even though after he had a violation, he built the shed saying, I told him he couldn't build it because it was on the property line. The next day, he finished building the shed, pulled with a concrete truck, pours the concrete foundation, and puts another concrete foundation. There's a lot more to this. These are just highlights. For the last year that he's been there, I've just been taking notes. I've been contacting the inspectors and stuff, but I don't feel like a lot's getting done and a lot's getting through the seams.
Let's see what we can do with this. I know we've heard these concerns a long time ago. I thought we resolved them, but let's start on them and see what we can do.
Well, that's all right. I thought they had something going on. I was going to let them go. And I feel like the last straw was them saying, oh yeah, we went and inspected it, and then him coming dumping triaxles full of gravel into this.
Okay.
And also the amount of people that are in and out of this house, so.
Pat, do you need any information for this, or you're?
Have this content, have your contact information?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Diane from Javins Street. And your last.
I'm Herman. I'm Herman. Been here about 16 years. And home bank. I would just like to add to 2 of the comments that some of the people made. I'm from Jamison, and speaking of this 25, but we have trucks going through there, and they're blocked with thick. So that's a real problem. And where I live is at the corner of Jamison and Colorado, and they just move through there. So I'm asking that you take some kind of measure, and speaking this aware, to either put something that says you're a mosquito net, so there, show them there. The other thing I wanted to say is, on behalf of my 81-year-old neighbor who's supposed to be here because he's still, I can't see with my house, but he can, and Mr. Vice, this gentleman, he brings the guy who was doing the construction, brings his stuff back, and openly burners. David, who's my neighbor, saw 5 different road piles going at one time. There's regions had severe drought. So we in this township have a no burning
Do you know what the address of that property is?
of my neighbor,
The one where they're burning
same place, same place.
Oh.
Same-
1425.
Yeah, same.
Oh, okay.
Same
All right.
place. So he counted 5 open, and I'm not talking about roasting marshmallows over 5 days. Huge bonfires, 5 of them. So he must be bringing weeds, trash, and this is a no burning township.
Yep.
No burn. The other thing is it is causing some issues with people who are asthma. I've talked with some people in the community, and that's becoming a health issue now.
Okay.
So I want to take that no to all of it. That was the two things I had. So thank you for your time.
Diane, just one question.
Yes.
You're on Jamison, sir. You're talking about the speeding coming from 263 York Road, which is Old York Road.
Yes.
Talking about.
Michael, you know that? Okay, yes, Michael, so I've been here over 60 years. So what's happened is when 263, obviously before that was even there, and it was in his home. What's happened is when 263 was renovated, everybody found the shortcut. Now everyone's going to leave, we never any traffic. Or never had any traffic. Now there's traffic, so this is all kinds of trucks going through there. It is not a paved road, it is a stone and tar road. And now it's all cracked, weeds coming up, and they're just, I mean, I'm talking speeding. So, I took down a dead tree at the corner there, and now I just had to fight the municipal company, or municipal authority, to put a reflector on the fire hydrant, because the only landmark was the tree. So, I had them, after months of asking them to put that on there, because people would hit that and got killed because of bends like this. I have long hood, so I will bring up.
I have another comment at the end of this meeting, so.
Okay.
So you're between Old York and York.
I'm between Old York and the new York. I'm in the new York. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? April Burrows.
My name is Kim Young, and I live on April Drive, in the Ridings of Warwick. A few years ago, a gentleman purchased the farm. It's located at 214 North Holland Road. Since that time, he has started putting animals on the farm. The residents that back up to him have had nothing but issues. We've contacted, I've sent numerous emails. I've actually lost track of how many. The township doesn't even respond to me. One of the few regulations that the township can enforce is that the chickens have to be 100 feet from our property line. Frankfurt Road has been in violation every single solitary day for at least 2 years. Finally, neighbors got fed up. We sent a bunch of letters, and for the first time in a long time, Kyle reached out and sent a letter to a few of us. He asked for a separate meeting, but I thought it was important to be here today. It's basically two things, which I've already heard here today, is that Warwick Township has blatantly ignored me, has not even responded, has so much condescended to reply to any of my emails. I didn't bring any of that evidence. I can next time. I kept the timeline of events. I know my other neighbors have contacted the township too, with no action whatsoever. There are large piles on a regular basis, mounds and mounds of trash, which you cannot imagine. This is far from a working farm. I have reached out to Randy and Tom too, and just said, I'm very confused as to how someone, regardless, I understand the land is zoned for farming. I'm not here to argue that point. But what I don't understand is how someone can just set up shop. I said, is there anything showing that he has licenses to sell any? We've seen people come and pick up goat milk. We've seen them picking up eggs. I mean, I can't say for sure, but doesn't the township get involved in ensuring that he's following FDA guidelines? I checked with the USDA. I know he's not registered with them. They said that it's not a registered farm, which I know involves tax breaks. It's not necessarily a requirement, but I'm just not sure how someone can just start a farm, have piles of trash, the conditions back there are so unsanitary. In your letter, you addressed some of my points, but quite a few you did not. You said you contacted, I think, the DEP for the manure runoff, but at the same time, there was no addressing the 200-foot rule. So Frank placed a gigantic, and when I mean gigantic pile of manure, I'm talking bigger than the length of this building, but probably 8 to 10 feet high. It sat 10 feet from our children's playground for a year before we spread it. The other one has been sitting about 50 feet from my property line, or from the property line and my neighbors for 2 years. The chickens peck at it and they've been eating it for 2 years. I've never seen such unsanitary conditions. And I said to you in my last email, this is a junkyard of animals. It's far from, like I said, do I want animals behind my house? No, of course I don't. But if it was a clean farm, we followed the rules, it would be a different story, but it's not. And nothing has been done. I said, when Brandy and Tom brought us in for a presentation, I shared the presentation with you. It literally said in the presentation, issuing fines and following up on that can be a lengthy process. That is no excuse for lack of action. I've asked them, I finally, for the first time in 2 years, after multiple emails were sent and letters by the neighborhood, they're gonna do an unannounced inspection. I said, announcing inspection does no good, because the second you guys leave, he's right back to his chickens walking along the property lines. It smells bad enough as it is. I don't need them directly on my property line. I just asked that, and I want, you addressed some of my points, but I felt like the letter was very vague. And I did say to you that it made it seem like the township was being very proactive in regards to this, and they're not. Many of us can attest to the fact that nothing's been done in 2 years, other than a couple of announced inspections. And I just say, the second you leave, it's right back to the normal. I mean, I just don't understand how a pile of manure can sit by my house for 2 years. And that chickens, and he hasn't been issued one fine, not one.
So, you want to make any comments on this, or?
Would you like me to come?
Yeah, I think
It's an ongoing investigation. I was part of the inspection that occurred about 10 days ago. I am aware of things that have been going on in the last 2 years, especially with the tree removal. There's been times that Brandy and Tom have been able to get compliance through discussions with the homeowner, the property owner. We were on it again. We have an enforcement proceeding that's ongoing with the piles that I counted 4 piles, 2 trash piles, 2 debris piles. And then we saw a couple vehicles too that didn't seem operable. So those were all included. We're aware that the Bucks County Conservation District and the Bucks County Health Department are going out. They'll be inspecting the property this week now. They tried last week, but now they're going back this week. So there's a lot going on to bring it to compliance, but we don't regulate manure, just try to hit some of your topics. And the building where the chickens live is a non-conforming use. It's a non-conforming location. So because the building is within the setback, that's where the chickens essentially live. They have built, and I saw it myself, like a chute where the chickens exit where they live, where they sleep. They go down the chute and they graze in an area that is outside of the foot requirement to the property line. So from that standpoint, they're in compliance, but I understand that there are times when we're not there that they may not be. The unannounced inspection comments have to do with us not being allowed to trespass on the farm, but we can come to your property and look at the farm from your property. You've given us permission. I think Tom is scheduled to come out there tomorrow.
Yeah, but like I said, I just want to reiterate that myself and my next door neighbor asked this request back in January when we brought us in. And so for the last 8 months, we've been telling you every day and sending timestamp pictures that the chickens are within 100. I understand the grandfather rule about the barn, and they go in there at night, it's fine, but as soon as they come out, they are all, he doesn't even bother trying to comply to non-conforming rule. He never has in 2 years, and he's never been issued a fine.
Okay. He has been issued violations. Yeah, I know that that's a fact. I'm not trying to get into a back and forth, but I know that things have happened.
So there's nothing the township can do in enforcing the 200-foot rule?
No, I said that they're being inspected tomorrow, so
I mean,
The
sorry,
chickens-
I'm
if the chickens are in process of moving from the hen house to the grazing area, that would be, kind of the transient portion. But if they're grazing within the footage requirement, then that would be a violation.
That's what I'm saying, they are
Right,
every day
yes.
for 2 years.
Okay.
But I was asking, sorry, about the violation, of the manure and garbage setback.
So the garbage, yes, and the debris pile, yes. The manure, that's what the Bucks County Conservation District and the Bucks County Health Department will be looking at, as well as the well-being of the animals.
Okay, are they made public?
That's what the Bucks County
Or is that,
Their records, I don't know.
do they supply
You can
full
certainly ask the Bucks County Conservation District if they'll let us know. They are going to inform us, at least verbally, of the findings.
Okay, so that you will be,
So hopefully we'll know more this week.
and then will we be informed?
I will,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, I have, at least I think maybe everyone in this room, I've had an email chain going, I've been sending out information the last few weeks. I plan to continue to do so until the property is in compliance or it goes through the proper procedure.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, from your letter, it was a little bit to me. And then, like I said, some of the points weren't addressed.
You can always call me if I'm not clear enough and I can be more clear.
Yeah, I'm just, like I said, looking forward to, I wanna see, like, so we, in my mind too, we brought attention to this by more voices. But I'm worried that you get all the traction and then it's gonna be very hard for business as usual on that farm. I mean, he doesn't even live there, I don't know what's going on, he hasn't lived there in 4 years since he purchased the property.
Okay.
He just dumped a bunch of animals and left. And is there, I don't know if this is the right time, but does that have to have a UNO for anybody to be staying there?
For the house,
Yeah.
yes.
Because I can't say for a fact, but I see his farm workers at 5 in the morning, I never see a car drop them off, and I never see them leave, so I think they're living in the
Yeah,
house.
well, I believe the house is under construction.
I think people are living in there,
Okay,
as far as I'm concerned,
okay,
based on what I've seen.
okay.
I mean, he's directly behind me, I've never seen a car come in the morning, I've never seen a car leave. And then they're out there working it by like 5 weeks, so I'm sure between 5 and 6 days, which I know. But I know he doesn't live there, he's never occupied the property since more than 2 years. And I know some of the other neighbors, I don't know if I sent you some of the concerns about the constant trucks dropping debris down the road when they're coming in and out and dumping. Just dumping debris, rubble, all out of the night, in the dark.
I didn't see anything on the road when I was there last week, but we're monitoring it. And as I said, somebody's gonna be out there tomorrow.
Okay. I just hope, like I
Don't
said,
tell your-
moving
don't tell your
forward, that
neighbor.
this is gonna be a proactive monitoring and not just something that gets a little attention now and then kind of falls to the wayside. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Glenn, go on.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and address the board today. I'm here also to discuss what Mrs. Young just described, your next door neighbors on April Drive. And everything that Kim just spoke about is completely accurate, really describes our experience. Just like to add, from most recent Inside Warwick newsletter that's described here from the Board of Supervisors what our taxes pay for under Planning and Zoning Department. Processing and review of all land development, conditional use, zoning hearings, processing and review of all zoning, grading, and building permits, use, and occupancy applications and registrations. And I would say most importantly here, investigation and enforcement of all code violation complaints, zoning, stormwater, property maintenance, local ordinances. What we have experienced is a serious lack of urgency and oversight in this regard. I started the initial communication with the township last year by email. We've had a meeting with Ms. McEver and Mr. Jones. Essentially, that was where it was described to us as a cat and mouse game that would go on if enforcement were to take place, where you may be in compliance for one day, and if it goes back to being out of compliance, it starts the clock over again. So it was described to us essentially as somewhat futile. Why bother? I think we're here to ask, please enforce the zoning regulations that are on the books. We're neighbors. We started with our neighbor in a very cordial way, had good cordial relationships, asked him personally to follow through on the things that he described that he was going to do with the property, and even the things that he said he wasn't going to do with the property. That started cordial, and we maintained a cordial relationship with him. Except now he ignores us. We tried reaching out. I've gotten no response the last couple of times that I've tried to speak with him. Therefore, we have no ability to enforce. That's this body's responsibility. So we would ask for a greater sense of urgency and care over the impact that it's having on the community. I would welcome you to come enjoy the flies. We have an infestation of flies that we never experienced in this neighborhood, ever, until this Fricko moved in. And now it's a daily occurrence that we literally cannot enjoy our backyards. They're useless to us at this point because it's disgusting. And 9 times out of 10, we can go outside and not enjoy it simply because of the smell. Granted, that's part of living near an agricultural zoning. But the things that are being described can be mitigated if the enforcement is done and we would experience a better quality of life. So we would just ask that you do what is described here in terms of enforcement and do it with greater urgency than we've experienced since this started in a communication in 2024. And then just one other thing to mention, if there are rules in place for this, noise throughout the night, there are, as they said, trucks that deliver and dump things, creating quite a bit of noise when they dump, and it happens in the wee hours of the night, and it happens before 7 a.m., which I believe is out of compliance for a noise ordinance. And then finally, what Ms. McEver told us would raise an eyebrow to the township outside of some of the, zoning considerations of the out of compliance buildings, is if he was regrading the property. Well, what do giant land movers typically do? Most people aren't doing simple gardening with such equipment. They're regrading. And he has dug more trenches and moved more land than probably has happened in the township in the last 5 years. And I'm not really sure what giant piles of gravel are used for, except for regrading. So if that's something that should be raising an eyebrow to the township, I would suggest that you look into what he's doing with that as well.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
thank you very much. Kyle.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, my name was on the list, I'm Jeremy Young.
Oh, sure, I'm not.
Hi, I'm Kim Young's husband.
Thought you guys were.
I wasn't sure if we could come up with
in-
that.
in tandem.
So 2419, April Drive, I'm Jeremy Young. So my wife mentioned a lot of concerns, and my next door neighbor also mentioned a lot of concerns, and so I want to just kind of want to focus on the response that I got back, and just make sure I understand how some of these things work. And I know there's limitations of what you can do, but there's also some general just regulations here. So for one thing, I think we all know, and I'm sure you run into this multiple people, when you do inspections that are announced here, they're gonna pretty things up. He must have had some kind of inspection at some point about 8 months ago, because all of a sudden the farm became bucolic, a word you want to use when it comes to farms, and there was straw laid down for where the goats are, and everything was cleaned up, and there wasn't a piece of trash in sight, and that came and went. The guy had a great time, left, and within 2 days later, it just sat there and rotted. So a couple of things that we have on here. I apologize, I didn't come with the email that you responded with, so I apologize, I don't have that, so I'll just read off here. But one of the regulations is rotting food and trash. So we've already talked about the trash that they have. So what they do is they bring what I suspect is probably just old fruit, that kind of food that he gets from different places, and he spreads it out and spreads it out for the chickens. He puts it out in the area where the chickens go. They never clean it. So I know he can't give them like refuse, but it eventually becomes refuse because there's this just giant tract I have. When I was here and we met in December, I brought pictures from my drone. I was asked to keep doing that. I submit them on a daily basis. Every day I pick it up so I can make violations. And you have it where he has the tractor, he lays out the trash for the food at that point, and then he just leaves it, which of course just makes the flies unbearable. We have one point in time, I counted 75 flies in my garage. So that basically, to me, is a violation, that you cannot just allow food to just sit there and rot and rot and rot. It just eventually turns into slurry and it's just sitting there running off doing whatever. He never cleans it up. Another thing I'd like to talk about is number of animals. So it says that there are regulations as far as swine and horses, but as far as anything else, there's no regulation. Frank is increasing the number of goats and chickens that he has, and he's continuing to increase that number. And I want to know, what is the upper limit? He has, I don't know, maybe 15 acres of usable. So can he have 500, 5,000? What's the limit? Where do I all of a sudden get recourse where I say I basically have a chicken factory behind my house? I've been to Alabama to visit my uncle. I know what a chicken factory looks like. They are not pleasant. They usually are surrounded by about 30 acres of land around them because otherwise the residents will basically get ill. So I want to know pretty much what that upper limit is. Do we know? Do we have any?
There's not a numerical number to the number of chickens.
Is there any calculation or formula of any kind?
I think you look at the area in which they're grazing, so they have to be so many feet from the property lines for grazing purposes. So as you consolidate the property to meet those setbacks, you would essentially create a limit by the space available.
But I mean, you know, you can go into a chicken factory where they're basically stuck in cages that are this big, and that's considered to be acceptable. So I mean, is that going to be?
But that would be
property?
So that would be an organization like the SPCA or the Bucks County
Who
Health.
my wife has contacted, we're trying to get information back from them. We are taking other paths, we're not just coming here, we are trying to go through other organizations, but things run slow and we don't really get responses. And we understand about the use of the livestock building, we know that it's an existing structure, we know that it's allowed to be, that's been described, it can grow a certain amount. To the point of where do the people stay there? So I can't tell you that I'm up every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, so potentially there's somebody that's coming in and driving in, the two elderly people that work there that I believe are Frank's relatives. But they never go home at night. So, and I know that house is perpetually under construction, which is his right to do, apparently I've been told, but I never see anyone go home at night. So I don't know if they're living in that house, or if they're living in the barn, because they have an air conditioning unit. I also don't know how the heck I don't see any ventilation, like the chickens are put away at night, I see no ventilation on that. I don't know how he's housing them, so if that doesn't fall to you, I don't know. But I just want to kind of clarify a couple of things, like, I know there are regulations for what he can and can't do, he is violating those things. And as far as the setback for the chickens, you just expressed there is a run, so you can get them from the one side of the barn and it comes through. There was a point in time where he actually bothered to put a temporary fence at that limit. He hasn't had that for a better part of 3 months. So the chickens just go wherever they want. Now, there's always, you're gonna find a couple of chickens that escape through a fence, that's whatever, that is what it is. But there is no fence. He just leaves that run open all the time, so the chickens just go wherever they want. And that includes, he just lets the chickens hang out on the manure pile. Like when he is doing something over here and the chickens decide they want to go to the manure pile, they just hang out on the manure pile for an entire day and just eat bugs out of the manure pile, which goodness knows what that's like. And I suspect he's selling nest organs, but I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify a couple of extra things. And luckily, we've tried to find ways to deal with the pests. I don't know if under nuisance, if flies are considered something like that. I mean, I know it's a farm, there's gonna be smells. That's understood. And I worked with Frank, I'm the first person I ever talked to Frank when he moved in. I tried to set up a cordial relationship with him. I said it's nice to see somebody who's going to the property because it kind of been, just a horse farm before that. Tried to talk to him. At this point, he just goes, he doesn't give us any information. I have no idea what he's doing. I have no idea if he's attempting to do any of the improvements he's been talking about doing for 3 years. I have no idea. It's just a big mystery, and there's just more and more and more animals show up. And at what point does it end? So if you can tell me what that formula is, if you've got to research it and let us know, but if you can share that with us, that like, at this point, he's probably sitting, I really don't know how many chickens he's got. His goats are, he's increasing his grazing areas for his goats because he's bringing in that many goats. And some days are there, and some days they're gone. So I don't know if he's selling them, I don't know what he's doing, we have no idea. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the planning commission.
Excuse me, I do remember my question. I am getting much better from long term. I just wanted stopped where Mr.
Yes.
Was, and I took that number from him and I called, and I asked him for his license and his insurance. He sent them to me, and it expired. So he's running a legal operation back there. The other thing I was kind of interested, this is the first time I've ever been to a board meeting. What I consistently hear is 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years plus. Why does it take so long for anything to change or be adjudicated or remediated? I don't really understand. I ran a business for 30 years, and things that come up, I handle it. So, obviously, there's a process that you go through, I understand that. But I think that's a long time, 2 years and more than that. Can anyone explain to me why, when questions are brought up from the community, things are taking so long?
Are you referring to the farm?
No, I'm referring to actually every question in here. And other meetings. Why do things take so long to actually?
There's actions going on that aren't being discussed at these meetings, because these meetings then would become 4 or 5 hours long.
I
It's
understand.
not that we're taking 2 years to do something, it's that there's mechanisms in place that we have to follow procedures. For example, with the farm, we can cite, there's a certain period of time for compliance, then there's a certain period of time if we prosecute. And this all takes a long time.
I can add to that,
Sure.
if you don't mind. So Mr. Young described the situation as 8 months ago or so, the property was cleaned up and looked, what was the adjective you used?
Ecology.
Right, so that's us doing our job at that time.
Okay.
Then they go back to resulting in what probably looks like today, which sounds to me like it's a violation of something, which we're addressing. So it's an ebb and flow of they clean up a property and then they let it go back to the way it was before. And then the clock starts again. But yeah, it is, so civil violations are typically much lengthier to resolve than criminal violations, in the sense that, you're not arrested for doing these things. There's documentation period, there's long appeal periods where things go in front of the zoning hearing board. The zoning hearing board decisions can be appealed, that can then go to a judge, that decision can be appealed. So there's a lot of appeal opportunity for somebody who is essentially the person violating the ordinance.
So nothing is changed.
That's the way, like the state is set up and the laws that we have to go by. So the laws that we pass here at the local level have to comply with state laws. And like in the instance of the farm, there's a right to farm law. So in the right to farm law, in short, it means like nuisance violations, we as a local government can't cite them for. So probably flies, but definitely smells, definitely sound, like sound that's of a normal farm operation, we can't cite them for. So some of the stuff is things that we're just preempted, is actually the word that we use in local government. We're preempted by the state to not be able to enforce certain laws. But when you see people that come to a board meeting, it's a very small snapshot of the problems that we address. So if we address 50 issues in a month, it's only the 2 issues that come in front of the board during like a meeting in that month that you would see as the public. And typically the issues that are brought up at a public meeting like this are the more complicated, complex issues. So the things that are able to be resolved and do get resolved, nobody necessarily knows about because they're just, you call us, we take care of it, and then it's moved on. So these are typically the more complicated issues like the farm or like the Old York Road property.
Well, that does clarify.
Sure. Sure. Try it again. Manager's report, first item on the agenda is the planning commission membership to consider the acceptance of the resignation of Mike Martin and to consider an appointment for the board wishes to accept his resignation.
Let's start with the resignation. And a motion to accept the resignation from the planning commission.
Make a motion that accept the resignation of Mike Martin from the planning commission.
And a second? All in favor? Aye.
So now, if the board has somebody that they would like to appoint to the planning commission, so now, or they can do that later.
Anybody nominate me about this?
Yes. Make a motion that we nominate Ray Rogers to the planning commission.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Next is the appointment of the township solicitor. The township had appointed Mary Everly from Grimley and Thatcher at the 2025 reorganization meeting, which is the first meeting of the year. Mike Martin is also from Grimley and Thatcher and has been filling in her absence. As such, the board may consider appointing Mike Martin permanent solicitor for the remainder of 2025.
Can I have a motion?
Make a motion that we appoint Mike Martin to the township solicitor.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is the 2025 sidewalk project bid. Total project budget is $230,000, $190,000 for construction, $40,000 for engineering and legal. The low bid was by a company called Kleinmar Construction of $166,639, which is over $23,000 under the construction cost estimate. And to date, we've spent about $32,000 in legal and engineering. The project's on track to be completed under budget. This is a sidewalk project for those in the room that's adding sidewalks along Alms House Road and Guinea Lane where there are gaps currently, and we're looking to do more next year as well. So with the numbers that have come in with the bid, I would recommend awarding the bid to Kleinmar Construction in the amount of $166,630.
Any questions?
Question.
Barbara, any questions?
Just a clarification that, even though it's under budget, there is history of knowing that they've done a good job with,
I think Michelle.
Yes, we know the contractor, they have done satisfactory or above average work for us, for our other municipal funds, so we do recommend them.
Motion?
Make a motion that we accept the 2025 sidewalk project bid.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Next is the 2025-2026 snow removal bid. Staff are requesting authorization to advertise this bid. We found that advertising the snow removal bid earlier before the snow season, the winter season comes upon us, that we get a better response from the local bidders.
Michael, any questions?
No question.
Robin? Can I have a motion?
Make a motion that we authorize to advertise the 2025 and 2026.
And a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is the Walton Road Stabilization project. The permit that's authorizing this project is expected to be released in the next 2 weeks. In preparation, the township is looking to purchase the materials that we need to do this work this fall. We plan on utilizing a CoStar state pre-bid vendor. However, should that not be possible, I wanted to ask if the board would authorize advertisement of a traditional bid. Should we not be able to purchase the materials through a pre-bidded state vendor? The labor for this project is to be completed in-house by our own public works department.
Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to consider or to advertise the Walton Road stabilization bid.
And a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is the Warwick Township Park Maintenance Plan. The Park and Rec Department has drafted a detailed plan outlining the annual, seasonal, monthly, and weekly maintenance schedule for our township parks. It also summarizes the amenities we have at each park and shows their corresponding acreage and open space. It's been a project of the Park and Rec Department to put together this plan this year. It's something that they want to get done. And they're looking at it not only as something for the public to look at, but something even for internally for employees, especially seasonal employees, to see as far as the amenities we have at our tech parks.
Michael, any questions?
No question, just a comment that I thought it was all together.
Thank you.
Comment?
and just a comment also for the record that if I obviously would be within the budget that you are running.
Make a motion to approve the Warwick Township Park maintenance plan.
All in favor? Aye.
Next is the sale of a 2008 Ford Escape. The police department recently transferred a retired 2017 police SUV to the planning and zoning department to be used for fire inspections and fire response. The planning and zoning department's old SUV, which is the 2008 Ford Escape, will now be sold. We're looking for permission to list the Escape on the municipal bid for sale to the highest bidder.
Rob? Move
Make a motion to authorize the sale of the 2008 Ford Escape.
All in favor? Aye.
And next is the treasurer's report for July. For the month of July, expenditures outpaced revenues by $1,162,673. Real estate transfers posted $50,956. Building permits posted $40,839. Earned income tax posted $188,058. Local service tax posted $10,826. Fund balances for July are as follows, subject to audit. General fund, $15,799,220. Firehouse equipment, $792,381. Road machinery, $163,880. Capital project fund, $601,515. Highway aid fund, $15,673. Parks and Recreation, $899,416. Parks and Recreation Capital Fund, $324,126. Capital Reserve, $90,185 for a total of $18,686,396.
Have any questions? Robin? Have a motion.
Make a motion to accept the treasury report for July 2025, subject to audit.
All in favor? Aye.
Next is the bill payments. I request approval of the bill payments dated August 4th, totaling $458,570.76. And for August 18th, totaling $234,371.96, subject to audit.
Michael, any questions?
Yes, one question about
Sure.
did the checks this week. We paid for the salt this month, but yet we used it way back when, and then we billed that
The-
lags that much.
The Morton Salt Company missed invoicing us for salt delivered back in February. Their accounting caught it and contacted us. We verified that they did not bill us for that salt that we did receive. So now they bill us for it.
Robin, any questions? Have a motion.
I make a motion to accept bill payments for 8/4 and 8/18/2025, subject to audit.
All in favor? Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Mike, anything for tonight?
Nothing from me.
Michelle, what you looking for?
First item I have for you is escrow release number 8 for lot 18 in the Warwick Business Campus, which is known as the Spring Dance Hot Tub site. We are recommending the release of the remaining escrow for this development project in the amount of $43,570.40, and also recommending that the project be certified as complete.
Thank you. Michael, any questions?
No questions.
Robin? Can I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve land development 21-02 Spring Dance Hot Tub to release escrow number 8.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second item I have for you is another escrow release. It is escrow release number 8 for the development at 1549 Stony Road, which is known as the Breton Hill Development. It is land development number 1902. We are recommending the reduction in the financial security in the amount of $63,222.50.
Michael, any questions?
No questions, Jim.
Robin? Can I have a motion?
I make a motion for land development 19-02 1549 Stony Road to release escrow number 8.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, old business, Michael?
None.
Robin? Kyle?
None.
New business, Michael?
None.
Robin?
No.
Kyle?
None.
Public comment, last chance. Seeing none, I'll ask for adjournment.
Make a motion for
Any comments?